So I did say to the church that from the age of 10 you were making money. What does that mean? What did you do to make money at the age of 10?
Well, those of you who've actually been a part of the church for a long time will probably remember that when I was a lot younger, this was kind of like secondary school age mostly.
11.
I used to bake, and that's how I used to make money. And the way that it kind of got started is there was actually a lady who used to come to the church, and I just used to enjoy spending time with her. She was just really, really good in the kitchen, and that's when I first learned how to bake. And so my parents started to notice that I had a little affinity with baking, and they bought me a kind of kids bakery book for Christmas, I think it was. And so it was something that was a bit more on my level, because I used to do quite complicated recipes with the lady. It was something that I could, try for myself. And I remember just going through the book, and I think it was probably the second or third recipe in the book was called the Can't Go Wrong cake. So of course I think, okay, this is the first one I'm going to try.
Can't go wrong.
And so I tried it, and I think I gave it to my family to taste some, and we thought, wait a minute, hold on. This is actually all right. And so that's how I started baking. It's funny because up until this day, I still use that recipe. And I learned how to make different types of cakes, but that was kind of like the most popular one. And I was just really, really blessed to be a part of a church where the adults just believed in investing and supporting the gifts in the young people. So so most of the customers were from church. And so if their child was having like a birthday party, or if they were doing like an event at their house, or just whatever it was, they would ask me to bake a cake for them. And so yeah, my parents were really, really involved with that. My mum even helped me with some of the baking and some of the icing. And I remember my dad designing like a logo for me, and like, we just wanted it to be proper. So yeah, so I was definitely making money from a young age. And so outside of my pocket money, I had a bit of extra for the things that I wanted to buy. And I think that's just encouragement to all the parents, really, that, if you see your child starting to pick up a skill, encourage them, invest in it. And even though my parents were very careful with how much money they gave me to spend on what I would call liabilities, so things that, you're just going to throw away in a few months or you're going to grow out of, they were always intentional in investing in me. And I'll just say one more story. There was a point, I'd been baking for a few years, and I wanted to get this cake mixer. And it was like an electronic cake mixer, because I was doing everything handheld at that time. And I remember going through the Argos catalogue, this was back in the day, going through the Argos catalogue and seeing a cake mixer, and they were really expensive back then. And I saw one that I wanted, and it was £200. And I remember thinking, gosh, like 200, because I was about 12 at this time, thinking, gosh, like, I can't afford this, or I haven't even seen that type of money in my hands before. So to me, it was just like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. But I spoke with my dad about it, and he said, look, Melody, like, you have to understand that when it comes into investing in yourself, that's something you shouldn't hold back on. And he said, if you bring this much, we'll pay for the rest. And so that was probably my first, what you would call, investment, because it was something that helped me to make more money. It wasn't just something I was buying just because I wanted it. And my dad said to me, look, by the time you've made 20 cakes, you would have made your money back. And so he helped me to put investments into perspective. And yeah, that was my first investment, a cake mixer.
Okay, so I know there are young people in the audience today. Would you give some advice to young people on how they can perhaps start making some money, or at least start thinking about their future financially?
Okay, I think that as we've been talking about, really, money lies in your gifts. So whatever you are good at, there's probably a way that you can make money from it. And in the same way that I kind of use church as a good way to kind of get what I was doing out there, I would encourage the young people as well. If there's a skill that you have, make it known. I know that some of them already bake for some of the events that we have. And just those types of opportunities that you have, make the most of them. And in the same way that the adults supported me when I was younger, I'm sure that all of the adults will support you. So definitely find a gift, and then find a way to make money from it. And I think we live in an age where there's so much information. So even if you feel like, okay, I'm not that good at this, or I still want to grow in it, it's something you can teach yourself. You can go on YouTube. You know, you can basically have access to the information to grow. So I would say definitely those two things. That's how I would advise you.
All right. Any last words for parents?
Yeah, I guess just to reiterate that, you know, it's important to invest into your children, and it's better to give them less to spend on the liabilities and give them more for investments. And I think that should just be a principle that you teach them, that, okay, when it comes to things that are not going to last, that are basically just going to, you know, they're going to depreciate over time, you know, we're going to be careful about how much we give to you. But when it comes to investing into your skills, that's something that we won't hold back on, and you can always come to us when it comes to those types of things. So I'd say definitely instill that in your children, invest into them and just encourage them, because you never know what would happen next or what that skill or gift will turn into.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, give it up to Melody. All right, I heard you had some questions for me as well.
Yes, I do. I do. See, I just wanted to know, where did you get the idea for all of these incentives that you did for my brother and I growing up, and why was it so important for you to start from such a young age?
Maybe a couple of reasons. First of all, the Bible does command us as parents to train up our children in the way that they should go. And that is a commandment. We're meant to do that. We're meant to train our children. We're not just meant to leave them in front of the television and go to work every day. We're meant to create time to relate with our children. And so we wanted to obey the scriptures. I mean, I can't say we were perfect parents. We weren't. But we tried as much as possible to give some time to our children in the things that we knew was going to be important in their life. And the scripture does say that if we train up our children in the way that they should go, then they will not depart from it. So we felt that if we started them up early and taught them how to be judicious with their finances, then hopefully when they get older, they will not depart from it. That was our desire, and that was the promise of God that we depended on. But the second thing is we wanted our children to learn some of the things that we didn't learn when we were growing up. You know, in our era, when we were growing up, we were not very close to our parents. We didn't sit down on our parents' lap and talk with them and chat with them and lie on the bed with them. You know, we grew up in the kind of the time when the parents were a bit further away from the children. And I realized particularly because I wasn't as close with my father as I would have liked to, I realized as I grew up that I wish I had a closer relationship with my father. I did have a close relationship with my mother, but not with my dad. And I didn't want my children to have the same feelings that I had when I was growing up, feeling that my father was over there, and I was over here. I wanted my children to know that they had a daddy. I wanted my children to know that their dad will come home early and be at home and have dinner with them and put them to bed. I wanted those things for my children because I said I wanted to break the cycle of what happened in my own life. So in some ways, it was partly because I didn't want the same history to repeat itself with my children that we found ourselves doing those things. But in terms of the finances in particular, I just realized that adults are a product of their childhood. Let me say that again. Adults are a product of their childhood. And I realized that some of the mistakes that we made as we were growing up, we made them because that's how our childhood made us think we should behave. And so again, I wanted to make sure that by the grace of God, our children would become a product of what they had learned. And we felt that it was important for us to be a good example to them.